All right. For some reason, Lisa Tatum, I don't know why it's showing on my screen. But anyway, we'll deal with it. Okay. If you hear some kind of like groaning in the background, I'm just letting you know that's my dogs. All right. So they usually like to come alive whenever I get on a Zoom. So it's not my stomach or anything like that. So I just wanted to put that disclaimer out there real quick. Anyway, just a couple of little things I wanted to remind you about. Number one, the reboots are still on sale through the 28th of this month. So if you haven't gotten yours, or if you haven't called your list and gotten them to buy their reboots, make sure that you're reminding everyone that you know, and make sure that your social media really kind of reflects your experience with the last reboot or the experiences of some of the people that are on your team. Another thing is that at 12 o'clock today, hold on just a second, Marley. Okay, now then. Another thing is that at 12 o'clock today, you should be seeing something coming out. I heard that we're going to make a big wave around noon today. So keep your eye out for that. All right. I was very, very nervous whenever, it was getting time for this Zoom, because I actually haven't done one of the Monday Mindset Zooms yet. And so anyway, I just kind of wanted to, let you know a little bit about the conversations that were kind of going on in my head this morning. Do y'all have conversations with yourselves ever? Do you ever talk to yourself? I mean, I talk to myself all the time, okay? All the time. And I think it's something that everybody does, and and I've done it forever. And it wasn't until recently that I really started listening to what I was saying to myself. Marley, stop. I mean, they've been good all morning, and then just now they're going nuts. Okay. So I started paying a lot of attention to what I was saying to myself in my head. And I did this because I'm a big Mel Robbins fan. Are there any other Mel Robbins fans out there? I love Mel Robbins. And so I went through her Power of You course last year. It was in the fall. And I learned a lot of things, and I became a lot more aware of the conversations that were going on in my head. And I'm just going to kind of give you an example of how the conversation went with myself this morning before this Zoom. Okay. And you might think it's kind of funny. And when I look back, I'm like, Michelle, you're just crazy. But this is what I was saying to myself. I was like, Michelle, what have you done? Why on earth did you say that you would do this Monday Mindset Zoom? You know that you are not very good at this. You always say, like, and so anyway, so many times that it's annoying, and people are going to they're just going to think that you're weird. Make sure you don't ramble and go off on a tangent and just, why did you say yes to doing this? Okay, so that was the conversation in my head this morning as I was getting ready. Well, so then, because of what I learned with Mel Robbins, I immediately flipped it around and I said, okay, look, Michelle, it's done. You said that you would do it. You stepped out of your comfort zone because you knew that it would be good for you. It'll be a great experience. You'll become a better speaker. You'll learn how not to say like, and so anyway so many times. And just maybe you'll say something that will resonate with somebody that's on the Zoom. They're all nice people. They're not going to beat you up. They're not going to throw you on a list of people never to ask to do a Zoom again. Okay? You can do it. So that's kind of how I flipped the story and made it through that little negative conversation that I was having with myself. Then, of course, because I talked to myself so much, I went on to have another little conversation with myself, and it was, Michelle, your office is a wreck. It is an absolute wreck. You've got college stuff piled in there. I mean, there's no way that you need to get on that computer and everybody see what a wreck your office is. They're going to think that you're just a mess. Where are you going to do this? Are you going to sit in that corner in your kitchen again? And so then I was like, Michelle, okay, nobody cares where you're sitting when you're doing this Zoom. Nobody cares. It doesn't even matter. What matters is what you're saying. So just stick to the goal, stick to the subject, and do your Zoom, and don't worry about the other stuff. All right. So that was another example of how I was able to change my story this morning. So I want to know, you can let me know later if you want to, but what kind of stories are you telling yourself? Because we do it all the time. Are you listening to the stories that you're telling yourself? Because that's the key. You know, if you're listening to the stories, if they're not serving your purpose, we got to change the story. So when I started actually listening and becoming more aware of the things that I was saying to myself, I knew that they were not really serving my purpose. Okay? They were filled with lots of complaints, gripes, doubts, and none of these were really serving my purpose of being the best version of myself and achieving the goals that I'd set for myself. And, you know, when your mental game is sabotaging you, it truly, truly holds you back and derails you from your purpose. So it's super important to recognize these stories so that you can kind of manipulate your mind into having more clarity. And when you have more clarity, you're able to have more courage. So for instance, me doing this Zoom, that took courage for me because I was able to have a little bit more clarity about why I was stepping out of my comfort zone and doing this. So, you know, when you're able to manipulate your mind and get rid of those negative stories, then you can step into your purpose. So here's some examples of just everyday things that you could possibly be experiencing with negative stories or with stories that you encounter every single day. Oh my gosh, this traffic is terrible. Okay, that's just a complaint or a gripe, right? Oh my gosh. I mean, look at all these people sitting around. This has taken me forever just to get down the road. So how can you change that story? Well, you could say something like, I can't change it, so I'll just plug in my favorite podcast and try to enjoy myself for a few minutes. Or here I am sitting in standstill traffic. Maybe I could reach out to somebody that I've been wanting to reach out to about starting the ketone conversation. And then, you know, you're actually making your time really productive. So here's another example. I absolutely hate my job. I want to be able to quit my job. I want to be able to do Prove It full time. I absolutely hate my job. Okay. So how can you change that to serve your purpose? Well, one is you can start with gratitude. Be grateful for the paycheck that you get every week and the people that you get to work with. And then think about, you know, maybe I can talk to my boss about changing up a few things so that it can be a little bit more enjoyable for me. And if I carve out enough time each day in the nooks and crannies of my life, then I'll be able to leave this job and do Prove It full time. So it's changing that mindset. Okay, here's another one. I absolutely suck at sticking to a healthy routine. I don't eat what's right for me sometimes, and I'm not talking about myself, you know, because this is just an example, all right? I'm not telling on myself. I don't eat what's right for me, and I don't work out. Okay, well, you can switch that story around by saying, you know what? My past does not define me. I have failed at every diet that I've ever done in the past, but with this one, all I need to do is be patient and be consistent and make healthy habits a part of my daily routine. If I do that, I can stick with it and I can make progress. Okay. Now I'm going to kind of go a little deeper with you about some of the stories that I've been telling myself over the years. And this one was really, really, really big. And the reason I'm giving you all these examples is because I want to see if, you know, maybe it's going to spark some stories that you've been telling yourself in your head. And I urge you to write those stories down. Write down those things. Write down the complaints. Write down the gripes. Write down the doubts that you've been experiencing so that you can change those stories, because it's really very powerful when you get it down on paper. So this is one of my biggest ones, okay? I quit my job, my 9 to 5. Really, it wasn't 9 to 5. It was like a lot more than 9 to 5, but I quit my job in corporate America so that I could stay home and take care of my mother. All right. Because she was getting older and she lived with me and she needed, my care, because she got to where she wasn't able to, get around as well as she used to. Okay. So one thing that I did, I'll put it this way. When I sent that email, my resignation email, it was the hardest thing that I've ever pressed send on. Okay. Because here I am, a widow. I had no other source of income. I had some savings. All right. And it was a 6-figure a year job. And I'm thinking, Michelle, what are you doing? Even considering this. But y'all, it was the strongest unction. Have you ever heard that word, unction? It's like this feeling inside of you. It's a huge, strong nudge. The unction was overwhelming. Okay. And I remember my mom was standing there right beside me. And I was like, I'm so scared to hit this button, because it's just, the unknown, I felt like I was going to lose my sense of security. But it was that overwhelming feeling that I knew I was doing the right thing. And so I pressed that button and sent in my resignation. Well, so many times after that, going through the struggles, okay, I went through financial struggles. I went through struggles of, oh my gosh, I'm going crazy. I'm here at the house. I can hardly ever leave. I can only leave for like 1 hour at a time each day. I've lost my social life. A lot of my friends I've lost. There were so many things. And so I would say over and over to myself, Michelle, you are so stupid. And I called myself stupid so many times, I cannot even begin to tell you how many times I said that word to myself. Michelle, you are so stupid. Why on earth did you quit your job? Why on earth did you do this to your family? Why on earth did you step out on faith and now experience all the struggles that you're experiencing? And y'all, I told myself so many times that truly, it affected everything that I did. It affected my mindset about everything, because I was living, under the pretense that I had made the wrong decision, when I knew in my heart at the time that I was following my heart. I was following God's will. I knew that He was pushing me to quit that job. So now, because I've learned this and I'm more aware of the stories, that I've been telling myself, now the story that I tell myself is that, Michelle, you did the right thing. You followed your heart. Yes, there have been struggles. Yes, there have been uphill battles, but you gained time with your mother that you would never, ever have had. And no money can compare to that experience. And so now, again, when I look back, I'm like, I would do it again in a heartbeat. Absolutely. No questions about it. I would do it again in a heartbeat. Something else that I've beat myself up about for a long time was, for those of you that didn't know, my husband passed away 12 years ago. And actually it was the 12-year anniversary of him passing away on Sunday, the 24th, or Saturday, the 24th. And anyway, he died in his sleep. And he was 37 years old. And one thing that I beat myself up about, and it's something that I remembered, was I remember I was up working, okay, because y'all, I was a workaholic. I loved my corporate America job, and I was up working. My daughter was asleep. My son was spending the night at my mother's house, and my husband had gone to sleep because he worked odd shifts and he had to get up super, super early. And I remember at 11 o'clock that night, and he slept in a different bedroom that week because he did shift work. And so he always had to get up super early, and if he woke me up, then I wouldn't be able to go back to sleep and all that kind of stuff. So he was sleeping in the guest bedroom that night. And I remember him coughing around 11 o'clock at night. Okay. And he was already in bed asleep. And I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember him coughing, and I still sat in the kitchen, and I was just still doing my work, and I never went and checked on him or anything. And then, of course, the next morning, I found him, and he had passed away in the middle of the night. And for a very, very, very long time, and I haven't shared this with many people, but it was just something that I've come to grips with, like within the last year. For a very long time, I really kind of blamed myself, like, Michelle, why didn't you get up and go check on him when you heard him coughing? Why didn't you do that? And I was putting so much blame and shame on myself for not, taking that action, as if I could have done anything, okay? As if, that would have changed the outcome at all. And I was just like, why didn't I do that? I just questioned myself for years and years and years. And then finally, after learning about, I've got to change this story, I am 100% convinced that it was God, sparing me the agony of going through that experience. And probably, I couldn't have done anything. And so it was very important that I was able to shift my way of thinking and take that blame off of myself, because, when it's just unhealthy, y'all, whenever we blame ourselves and we fill ourselves with so much doubt, and we beat ourselves up with, self-sabotaging words and things like that. And a lot of times you don't even realize that you're doing it. And I think if you were to try and become, be more alert, and I urge you this week to try to be more alert and aware of the things that you're saying to yourself and write those things down. I think you'll be very, very surprised. So you might say, well, what all does this have to do with Privet? Okay, well, I'm going to give you some other examples. How many times do you let other people's stories become your own? It happens all the time, guys. You have a customer. Oh, it's just not doing anything for me. It's just, ketones just don't do anything for me. Okay. Let's see. You have another customer that says, oh, it's too expensive. I just don't have the money. Okay. Well, those are like little seeds of doubt that are being planted in our minds. All right. And we're human, we're all human. And so sometimes those little seeds begin to sprout and go, and, you're going, well, gosh, I wonder why this is so expensive. I wonder why it isn't working for that person. Can y'all relate? I'm seeing some smiles, so I'm thinking that you're going, yes, I can relate to this so much. We cannot let their stories become our stories. Okay. So write those things down too. Write it down. And, okay, it's expensive. Look, it's a premium product. We were not created to be the cheapest ketone supplement out there. We use the best ingredients, out there. We stand behind our brand, yada, yada, yada. Come up with the story that's going to counteract that complaint or that doubt that customer has. What if you have a promoter that just signed on, and maybe they blew it up the first 2 months, and then all of a sudden they are missing in action, and you're going, what the heck? What on earth happened? And then you reach out to them and they're like, it just wasn't for me. It just wasn't for me. And you're going, well, why wasn't it for you? I'm just not a salesperson. Okay. How can you flip that story and go, okay, look, she doesn't want to work it anymore. She brought in 100 customers, though, the first 2 months that she was in the business. I have all those people that I can reach out to. Some of them might end up wanting to be a promoter. And I can just look for the next person and continue building my business. Okay? So don't let somebody else's story become your story. All right? So it's 11:21, and I think I've said a lot, and it's not going to last 30 minutes. Hope that that's not a problem. But again, my challenge for you today and this week is to write down all the things that you complain about. Write down all the things, the little gripes that might just slip out of your mouth. Write down the things that you encounter, you know, from other people, things that could possibly plant a seed of doubt in your mind, and really become aware of those thoughts and change your story. Okay? So I hope that something that I said was helpful to you, and I so appreciate y'all joining. And I guess that is it. Let me look at, I'll tell you what, before you leave, let me look at the comments and see if anybody had any questions. No, just lots of nice little comments. Y'all are so precious. Thank you so much. Okay, well, y'all rock your Monday, watch your pulse at 12 o'clock, and let's end February super strong. Okay? Thanks. Bye.